You are listening to the Sealed Word on Grace Notes Ministries. I'm Marcus.
I'm Jordan. And Marcus, I went back and listened to episode 1 3 times this week.
3 times?
3 times. Because each time I caught something I missed. And each time I came back to the same question. How far back does this go? The English patterns we covered, the King James Bible is from 1611, but the words underneath it, the Hebrew of the Old Testament and the Greek of the New, those are thousands of years older. Is the seal in the translation only, or does it go all the way down?
That is exactly the right question. And that is exactly what today's episode answers. Jordan, I want to tell you about a man named Ivan Panin.
I know you mentioned him briefly last week.
We touched him. Today, we go deep. Ivan Panin was born in Russia in 1855. His family was wealthy. He was educated first in Germany, then he came to the United States and enrolled at Harvard University. By the time he graduated Harvard, he was a committed, intellectual, philosophical atheist. Not a casual unbeliever, a trained one. He debated religion. He rejected it publicly. He found it beneath serious thought.
So he was the kind of man who had reasons.
He was the kind of man who had arguments, and he would have lived and died with those arguments, except that one afternoon, nobody knows exactly why, he picked up a Greek New Testament and opened it. Not to read it devotionally, probably out of academic curiosity, and something in the Greek text caught his eye. A pattern, a numeric pattern buried in the original language that had no business being there. And Ivan Panin, the Harvard-trained atheist, could not explain it.
What did he see?
He saw that certain features of the Greek text, the number of words, the number of letters, the vocabulary, the grammatical structures, kept producing numbers that were divisible by 7, not occasionally, not coincidentally, constantly, in passage after passage, with a precision that went beyond any possible human arrangement.
And remember, 7. We talked about this last week. 7 is the number of divine perfection in Scripture.
God's own signature number. And Panin found it threaded through the original languages at a level of complexity that no committee of translators working by candlelight could have engineered. And here's the thing about Ivan Panin. He did not just observe it. He gave up everything else and spent the next 50 years documenting it. 40,000 pages of handwritten mathematical analysis. He died in 1942. He spent more than half a century on one project, proving something that started as an anomaly and ended as the most rigorous mathematical defense of Scripture ever compiled.
Okay, show me something specific, because I need to see it.
Genesis 1:1, the very first verse in the entire Bible. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In Hebrew, and this is the original, that sentence is 7 words. Exactly 7 words.
And 7 is the signature number.
That is not the pattern. That is just the setup. Now count the Hebrew letters across all 7 words. 28, which is 4 times 7. Still not the pattern. Now here is where it gets structural. In Hebrew, every letter has a numeric value. Aleph equals 1, Beth equals 2, and so on through the alphabet. You add up the numeric value of every letter in Genesis 1:1, all 28 letters across all 7 words, and the total is 2,701.
And 2,701 is divisible by 7?
2,701 equals 37 times 73. It is the triangular number of 73. It is structurally elegant in ways that took mathematicians weeks to fully map. But let's go further. The first word of Genesis 1:1 is Bereshit, in the beginning. Its numeric value is 913. The last word is Ha'artz, the earth. Its value is 296. Add the first and last word together, 1,209, divisible by 7.
Every layer you pull back, there's another one.
The value of the first and last letters of the entire verse, divisible by 7. The value of only the first letters of each of the 7 words, divisible by 7. The value of only the last letters of each word, divisible by 7. The middle word of the verse, which is Elohim, meaning God, has a numeric value that stands at the mathematical center of the first structure. And none of this was put there by a human editor. Moses wrote it, in the wilderness, with no calculating machine, no computer, no way to verify any of this arithmetic in real time.
So either Moses was the greatest mathematical genius who ever lived and managed to construct a sentence that satisfies about 15 simultaneous numeric constraints at once, while also being a coherent theological statement,
Or he wrote what God told him to write, and God built the mathematics in from the foundation of the world. That is the only other option. There is no third door.
Take me to the New Testament. Because the skeptic's argument is always going to be that maybe the Old Testament was edited over centuries, copied by scribes who could have manipulated things.
Ivan Panin thought of that. He went to the Greek New Testament, which we have in thousands of manuscripts cross-checked with a transmission history that rules out systematic manipulation. And he went to Matthew chapter 1, the genealogy of Jesus Christ, 42 generations from Abraham to Christ. Most people skip the genealogy. Ivan Panin counted every word. The vocabulary of Matthew 1:1 through 1:17 contains 49 unique words, 7 times 7.
Okay.
Of those 49 words, 28 appear only once in the passage, 4 times 7. 21 are proper names, 3 times 7. The remaining 28 words, not proper nouns, have a total numeric value divisible by 7. The number of letters in the entire passage is divisible by 7. The number of vowels is divisible by 7. The number of consonants is divisible by 7. The number of words that begin with a vowel, 7. The number of words that begin with a consonant, 42. 6 times 7.
This is in one passage?
One passage. Matthew went on and did the rest of his entire gospel. Every feature, every numeric property, woven through with sevens at every measurable level. Then Panin did Mark, then Luke, then John, then Paul's letters, then Peter's. Every author, every book, the same signature. Different authors writing in different decades across different countries, all producing text that when analyzed mathematically carries the same numeric DNA.
So the argument that one clever scribe added it doesn't work because
it would require every author writing independently across a century to have simultaneously embedded the same mathematical structure into their text, without any of them knowing the others were doing it, without any of them being able to verify it without a computer. It is a physical impossibility.
Did anyone ever try to disprove Panin?
He invited them. In 1899, he sent a letter to the New York Sun newspaper, one of the most widely read papers in the country. He laid out his findings and issued an open challenge to every mathematician, every scholar, every skeptic in the world. Disprove it. Show me an error in the counting. Explain to me how this is chance. The letter was published. He received responses from critics. He answered every one of them. Not one person in his lifetime, or in the 80 years since his death, has successfully refuted a single count.
80 years of open challenge and no one has taken the prize.
No one has taken the prize, because the numbers are what they are. We've got a caller. Let's go to James. James, you're on the sealed word.
Marcus, thank you for taking my call. I'm a pastor. I've been in ministry for 23 years, and I have to be honest with you, when one of my elders sent me a link to episode 1 last week, my first instinct was to dismiss it. We get a lot of people coming to the church with end times math, number theories, things that don't hold up, so I was skeptical.
That is a responsible posture, James, especially for a pastor. You're a shepherd. You have to protect your people from error.
That's right. So I sat down with King James Pure Bible Search, and I ran the counts myself. The Jesus count first, 490 and 490. I ran it twice. And then I went to the Ivan Panin material. I found his original work online. I started checking the Matthew genealogy vocabulary count. And Marcus, I'm going to be honest with you. I had to stop and just sit for a while, because 23 years of ministry and nobody ever showed me this. My seminary didn't teach this. My denomination doesn't talk about this. Why is the church not standing on this?
James, that is a question I think about every single day. Part of it is that pastors are trained in theology and languages and hermeneutics, all of which are essential, but not in mathematics. So the mathematical apologetics lane has been almost completely empty, and the enemy has been very happy to keep it that way, because this material is the most bulletproof defense of the authenticity of Scripture that exists. You cannot argue with arithmetic. You can argue about interpretation. You can argue about translation philosophy. You cannot argue about whether a number is divisible by 7.
I'm going to preach this. I want to do a whole series on it at my church. Where do I send my congregation to verify it themselves?
King James Pure Bible Search at purebiblesearch.com. Free download, runs on any computer.
For Ivan Panin's original research, his work has been digitized and portions are available at BibleNumerics.com, and we have a full resource page at gracenotesministries.com/KJVNumerics with the infographics and scripture laid out so your congregation can see it visually. Print those out, put them in your bulletin, let people take them home.
I will. Marcus, thank you, and thank you for doing this work. The church needed this voice.
James, God bless you and your congregation. Thank you for checking it yourself before you endorsed it. That is what a pastor is supposed to do.
That caller got me. 23 years in ministry and nobody showed him this.
That is the norm, not the exception. And that is why this show exists. Jordan, I want to close with one more thing before we let people go. Because somebody listening right now is going to say, okay, fine, maybe the math is there. But does it mean anything? Is it just God showing off? Or is there a message in the structure itself?
What's the message?
The message is in what the numbers point to. Every seal we've examined, the 490 of the name Jesus, the 7 to the 7th power of the total word count, the 7s in Genesis 1:1, the 7s through Matthew's genealogy, they all point inward toward the same center. The book is sealed around its own subject. Jesus Christ is the mathematical heart of a document written by 40 authors over 1,500 years. The first verse of the Bible carries his signature in its arithmetic before his name is ever mentioned. The genealogy that introduces him in the New Testament is numerically sealed before you ever get to his birth. The number of times his name appears is locked in perfect bilateral symmetry across the 27 books that tell his story.
It's not a collection of religious writings that happen to agree on a theme.
It is a single author document that happens to look like a collection of religious writings. One author wrote through 40 human instruments across 15 centuries and then sealed every layer of the text with a mathematical structure that could only be verified after the invention of computing. He left the proof for our generation, for the generation that would need it most, for people who have been told the Bible is a book men wrote, for the unbelieving husband, for the skeptical pastor, for the atheist who picks up a Greek New Testament one afternoon and cannot put it down.
Ivan Panin never put it down.
Ivan Panin never put it down. He gave 50 years to it. And when he died in 1942, he left 40,000 pages of proof that no one has refuted. His work is sitting there, available, free, waiting for anyone with intellectual honesty and a basic understanding of arithmetic to sit down and look. God signed the book. The signature is verifiable. That is not a metaphor. That is a mathematical fact.
Where do people go to dig deeper this week?
King James Pure Bible Search at purebiblesearch.com. Run the count yourself. Ivan Panin's research at BibleNumerics.com. Brandon Peterson's work at KGVCharts.com and sealedbytheking.com. And our full resource page at gracenotesministries.com/KGVNumerics. Every pattern, every infographic, free to download, free to share. Take the images, put them on social media, text them to someone, print them and leave them somewhere. This information belongs to everyone.
This has been The Sealed Word on Grace Notes Ministries. I'm Jordan.
I'm Marcus. Ivan Panin gave 50 years to this. Give it 50 minutes. You will not be the same. God bless everyone listening. We'll see you next episode.